Hi, my name is Ariel and welcome to Mermaid Musings. So this video is going to be about the horoscope for the month of May 2020. 2021, oh my God. It still feels like 2020 though. It still feels like it's been one long year. I'll put some timestamps down below, so if you're watching this a little bit late, feel free to skip to wherever you are in the month. I'm also going to make this a series, and then once the month is over, I'm gonna private it, so then that way if you're scrolling through my YouTube, you're not seeing a bunch of videos that you don't wanna see because they no longer relate to you. So if you like this video and you wanna see horoscopes for future months, be sure to subscribe down below. So let's get started. On the 3rd, Mercury enters Gemini, and it will be there for the rest of the month. This brings excitement and energy to communication. With the sun and multiple other planets still being in Taurus, this brings about this lounging communication style. For example, when Mercury was in Taurus along with all the other Taurus placements, you probably wanted to invite people over just to sort of sit in silence and stare at your phones or watch TV. Or maybe you wanted to go on a walk where you take in nature together where you really didn't talk, you just wanted to be physically near the other person. You didn't feel the need to constantly share thoughts and opinions. Now you want to keep that physical closeness, but also share your thoughts and opinions. So now you want to invite people over where you share a meal and a glass of wine and you spend that time catching up and talking to each other about your lives. Or you want to still go on that walk and be out in nature, but you want to be constantly talking the entire time. With all these Taurus placements, you still want to slow everything down. You still want to lounge around and be a homebody and be in comfy clothes and not really go anywhere. But now while you're doing those kinds of lazy activities, you want to do them with someone else who you can have an easy flow of conversation with. Instead of those activities being filled with silence, you want them to be filled with communication. On May 8th, Venus enters Gemini. Now this is some great energy. Everything I was saying before about Mercury going into Gemini, you sort of double down on that same energy. Not only do we have our mind wanting to communicate with people, we have our hearts wanting to communicate with people as well. Venus in astrology shows how we love, so we're going to want to spend more time talking to the people that we love. We want to build and strengthen our communication skills with those closest to us. Now's a great time to shoot people random texts for no other reason than you felt like talking. Reach out to friends you haven't spoken to in a long time, but they've been on your mind. Most likely, people are going to feel like reaching back during this time. If you're one of those people who's afraid that whenever you reach out to someone, you're a bother, now's a great time to get over that fear. This energy is perfect for communication, and you will find that people don't think you're a bother, and in fact, they love talking to you. On May 11th, we have a new moon in Taurus. The new moon in Taurus is radical Taurus energy. This is because Uranus, which is the radical planet, is also in the sign of Taurus. They're 10 degrees away, but considering there isn't very much that aspects this new moon, Uranus really jumps out to me. How do we radicalize our comfort? That's the question we need to be asking ourselves. Where are we too comfortable? When we are too comfortable, it stops growth. So where have you settled into your life so much that you have stifled yourself, that you have stifled your spirit? What area of your life have you not been challenged in a while? That's where you want to create challenges for yourself, where you want to shake things up. New moons are about new beginnings, and this new moon wants you to create radical inner change. The only real challenge to this new moon is the square with Jupiter and Saturn, which are both in Aquarius, and Aquarius is the radical sign. So even the challenges to this new moon are still doubling down on the same energy. Taking action to take yourself out of comfort will be uncomfortable. You will make mistakes along the way, but those mistakes will bring you closer to where you need to be. Only through discomfort can we truly grow. On May 13th, Jupiter enters Pisces. This is a longer transit, so I will do a separate video on what this transit will bring as a whole. However, for this video, I'm only going to focus on the month of May. So if you want to learn more about Jupiter and Pisces, be sure to subscribe below so you can see when that video pops up. So for the month of May, Jupiter and Pisces brings difficulty and challenges. We have a lot of Gemini energy going on, and Jupiter and Pisces is squaring all that Gemini energy. So any activities that you want to partake in that have more of a Gemini feel to them, I would do them closer to the beginning of the month before Jupiter goes into Pisces. Once Jupiter is here, it's going to be a lot harder to express Gemini and Pisces energies because there is this tension between the two. When you're in situations where it's normally smart to be adaptable, it's gonna backfire. You can find yourself in situations where there was literally no good option. Nothing you could have done would have made it better. So you just have to embrace that and not beat yourself up for what you did or didn't do. Oftentimes with Jupiter, what it does is out of our hands. It's luck, and oftentimes when we get a lucky break, we didn't do anything to make that energy manifest. It just sort of happened. When Jupiter is in harsh aspects, it's the same, but in reverse. We didn't do anything to bring that bad luck into our lives, it just happened. So during this time, embrace life as it happens to you and go with the flow as best you can, because there's literally nothing else you can do about it. So if you're someone who Jupiter moving into Pisces, it would normally be favorable to your natal chart placement, so you're not gonna see those benefits this month. Don't worry though, you'll see them later on. In May though, it's probably gonna feel like you have this string of bad luck and you can't catch a lucky break. Same thing if you have personal planets in Gemini. Normally, with so much Gemini in the sky, you would see things line up for you, but in this instance, that's not going to happen. So try not to get dragged down by this energy. This is one of those times where the events that happen to you are just completely out of your hands. There's nothing you can do about it. So just accept life as it is and go with the flow and do what Gemini and Pisces like to do, which is don't take life too seriously. On May 18th, we have Venus in Gemini trine Saturn in Aquarius. This is a really good Saturn transit before Saturn goes retrograde later in the month. If there's a project you're working on that has Saturn energy, I would recommend doing it on this day. Once Saturn goes retrograde, it can be harder to tap into that energy. That energy is still there, it's just introverted. It's deeper within ourselves and it's hard to bring it out and take real tangible action in the outside world. Venus trine Saturn gives us this really easy energy to Saturn, which is not used to easy energy. You're gonna find it easier to get tasks done. You're not gonna wanna pull your hair out as much while completing tasks. Saturn still brings difficulty, it's just that that difficulty takes less of a toll on you and is easier to break through. Instead of being mad about how challenging something is, you find that you love the challenge because you see the beauty in the challenge and how the challenge is benefiting you. On May 20th, the sun enters Gemini. So normally with the sun entering Gemini, I would be totally excited, but once again, we have Jupiter and Pisces messing that all up. We have sun entering Gemini on the 20th, and then the very next day on the 21st, the sun in Gemini is in an exact square with Jupiter and Pisces. Basically, the square between all these planets in Gemini and Jupiter and Pisces is the super annoying energy of the entire month that keeps killing our vibes. I don't want to keep repeating myself in this video, so I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. Good luck feeling confident during this time. You're going to have a lot of bad luck that works to tear down your self-confidence. You're probably going to beat yourself up for what you say right after you say it, and then you're going to use your thoughts and your words to tear yourself down. So just don't do that, because that's an incredibly stupid thing to do. If you're feeling not self-confident during this time, it will pass. Don't be too harsh on yourself. Gemini doesn't like to take life too seriously, so why should you take too seriously the dumb things that you think and say? Also, final note about Jupiter in Pisces. Don't make promises that you can't keep during this month. Just don't do it. This goes for all Gemini squares to Pisces, so basically the entire month. People are going to be embellishing what they are really capable of doing and making a lot of promises that are not going to come to fruition later. Even if you think you're being realistic and you really don't plan on breaking those promises later, you're not seeing the situation clearly. So when it comes time to actually deliver on those promises later, you're not going to be able to. So be careful and don't make too many promises, and especially don't make any big promises to anyone this month. Also, if someone promises you something, take it with a grain of salt. Don't pin a lot of hope on that promise or make decisions based on what the other person promised you, because most likely that person isn't going to follow through either. On May 26th, Saturn goes retrograde in Aquarius. Basically, the lessons that Saturn in Aquarius is trying to teach us, instead of those lessons being projected outward, they're going to be projected inward. Saturn in Aquarius is about restructuring our relationship to humanity. So instead of projecting that outwardly, Saturn in Aquarius wants us to go inward and ask ourselves, how are we failing at taking care at humanity? How am I personally not living up to my fullest potential when it comes to helping others? That's a question that you have to ask yourself and address within yourself. Then when Saturn in Aquarius moves out of retrograde, you take those lessons and then you project them outwardly. So you can be a better person and help other people more. On May 26th, we have a full moon in Sagittarius. This full moon creates tension between what we know and the unknown. This is because the North Node in Gemini is close to the Sun, while the South Node in Sagittarius is close to the Moon. So it creates this really weird dynamic. Sagittarius is the sign that represents unknown and adventure, but yet it's touching the South Node, which is the sign of what we already know and comfortability. So these are confusing energies to grapple with. The full moon is asking us to look at where we run away from our own lives. Sometimes it feels safer to run into the unknown rather than deal with the emotions that make us uncomfortable. We know what these emotions are, and we know that we don't like them, which is why we choose to ignore them. Sometimes it's scarier to confront the known than the unknown, and this full moon is asking us to do just that. It's asking us to sit and deal with our uncomfortable emotions without trying to escape from them. Only when we have dealt with the known does the unknown become this uncomfortable, scary, exciting adventure to run towards again. On May 29th, Mercury goes retrograde in Gemini. Mercury retrograde is one of those astrology transits that people really freak out over, even though it's really not that big of a deal. So what? Mercury's going retrograde. It does that 3 times per year. You just gotta learn how to deal with the energy. Mercury retrograde in Gemini wants us to go inward and think about our communication. Mercury is communication. Gemini is communication. So we're getting a double dose of exploration into the same energy. Use this time to really work on your communication skills. Figure out where you can improve on your communication, where you're great at communication and where you are lacking. When we're working on self-improvement, it's also important to recognize what we're already good at, because we don't want to alter or get rid of talents in our effort for self-improvement. So be sure to give yourself a little, pat on the back when you're striving to do better. If you reached out at the beginning of the month to people who you haven't talked to in a long time, you might find that you're doing even more of that now. You're reaching out to even more people, or you're continuing on the conversation with the people who you already reached out to. This might be a great time to rekindle relationships you thought were long dead. You might find that those relationships aren't quite finished and that those people are still an asset to your life. Or you might discover why you left and outgrew the relationship in the first place. So now you have closure and can be completely done with it. Either way, it's a win for you. So don't be afraid to open up that communication, because regardless of what happens, you're still gonna grow from the experience. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this video, please do me a big favor and be sure to like and subscribe below. It really does help me out. Also, comment down below. What are your thoughts about the horoscope for the month? I would love to hear from all of you. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, or a wonderful rest of May. Oh, that was cheesy.